This is the Cire Perdue project, which is the ancient art of metal casting. In antiquity, this would have typically been done with bronze to make bronze figurines, but you would start with a wax mold, which right here you can see we're attempting to create but breaking. We're using birthday candles here shaped as the letter 0, and there's another one that we're using, it's a letter 4. We're using these because we have no carving ability in our group, as you can see by this horrible mess on the screen. But we're carving it out to try and make it more complicated by taking the centers out here. Hopefully that'll make it a little bit more interesting of a mold. Now we are beginning step 2 of the Cire Perdue process. In this step, you take your wax figure and you're going to surround it with clay. The idea is that eventually this clay will form the mold with which you can pour the metal into. As you can see here, we're having a little bit of trouble. So this one we kind of expected not to turn out as well. It's kind of our test one, but got the clay together pretty well there without breaking the mold. In any event, in this case we are using fast drying clay that's meant to dry in the air. We're using this as opposed to regular clay you find in a kiln because we don't have access to a kiln. So this is a much easier way for us to complete the process here. Just patting it in and making sure the wax mold is completely surrounded with clay. This is a little bit further along in the claying process. We added a little spout on top to pour in metal. And on the number 4 here, we used a birthday candle as a vent to vent the long side of the number 4. We did this because we didn't know if the metal would fill properly over there, so if we add the vent, this will allow air to escape and the metal to fill in that section of the mold more effectively. And here we're doing the same thing we did on the other one. We're going to add a foot on the bottom so that we can easily fill this with metal without having to hold on to it. We thought this would be good for safety reasons. And then in a second here, we'll add a well on top and the molds will be completed.
So what we're doing here is we're draining out the wax from the clay molds. This will be used later to pour the metal into. Usually a furnace would have been used to melt it, but we just used an oven to function the same way. So here we have all the wax drained out of it. As you can see, it's hollow. We hope there's no more wax in the bottom of it, but we should be good. So this is step 4. What we have here is plumber solder, and we have it on a pan on a grill. It's a melting point of this is like 400 degrees. Traditionally, historically, bronze would have been used, and we didn't use bronze because we didn't have the tools to melt the metal. What we're doing here is actually we're pouring into the clay mold. It dries up pretty quick, takes a couple seconds. So we're just going to make sure that we fill up all the holes inside it. Oh yeah, we have safety equipment here. Just make sure we had goggles, that we had welder's gloves, so we're not burning ourselves. What we're pouring here is a 4, and you should see metal rise out of the riser. It's a small part of it.
Alright, here what we're looking at is step 5 of the Cire Perdue project. We are breaking the clay molds. What we have done so far is take the wax figures, surround them with clay, let the clay dry, melt out the wax by heating it up, and then this left a hollow hole in the middle of the clay, and then we filled that with metal, let the metal cool, and now we are getting ready to chip away at it with a screwdriver and a mallet. We're using the Cire Perdue technique to make metal replicas of birthday candles. In ancient times, this technique would have been used to make small figurines, such as the Minerva figurine. It could have been also used to make hydrias, which are water jugs. It could have been used to make fibula, as well as used for hollow casting. Alright, here we continue to chip away. You can start to see chunks of metal showing through. We started to notice as we were chipping away that not all of the clay had dried completely, so it was a little bit easier to remove. It started to come off in big chunks right here. Once we got most of the clay off, there were still little bits here and there that were left on the metal figures, and so we soaked them in water to soften the clay, and then we were able to kind of scrape off the clay as it was softened. Right here we're removing the clay around the vent. You can start to see this little piece of metal protruding from the side of the floor. This is the air vent that we had put in earlier, and this air vent is going to be removed completely in the next step.
In this step, you'll be finishing off the product. Normally, you would cut off the air vent, and you can use sandpaper or another rough stone to polish it up and take any rough edges off. Here, the air vent, since it was thin, it just snapped off fairly easily. At this part, we were chopping off the pouring well from the floor. This is just the last of the unwanted metal that we didn't want on the finished product. Here is our final product. You can see the wax being broken on the zero. You're surprised how well it came out, but all in all, they both came out pretty well.